All right, welcome everyone to another Serious Angler podcast. But like last week's episode, the first of the real biology segment, today's episode is going to be another new segment called Seriously Western. And just like any other Serious Angler episode, our main course for you will be talking and hopefully teaching you more about bass fishing with a tangent or two. Only on this episode, you guys are with hosts Adam Deacon, myself, Bailey Egbrett, and we are going to be focusing entirely on the anglers and the topics coming out of the West Coast. And Adam, this has been one that has been in the talks with us on our team for a while. And being an angler yourself from the West Coast, tell the folks a little bit more about what Seriously Western is designed to do and our goals here with it.
Yeah, man. Certainly can't take full credit for it. It's something we've talked about a lot as far as, hey, there needs to be some more coverage on the West from a national scale. I feel like that's what we can bring with the Serious Angler Network. And so we talked about not only covering guys in the West that are out here and some of these new tours coming out, right? The BAM 60, the one bass, which has been historic for quite some time. I mean, there's just a lack of coverage of what is happening with major names out here, and so
Right.
that's the big presence here is to push more bass fishing on the West Coast nationally and the coverage news wise there, and cover the guys that are out there, right, that are doing it. The folks we're having on today's show regarding guys who are from the West fishing the national side out east and everything that has happening there. But what I can say is great is the name to me, man. I mean, whenever we have a show or a segment idea, like we have a text thread, right, that will just be long with like names and titles and different things that we have ideas for. It was like, all right, what is this new Western segment going to be called? And I think I like put out like a name or two, and you're like, seriously Western. And it was like, oh, dude, that's it. Like, no questions asked. That's the name of the show. You can take it however you want. It's funny. Like, that's seriously Western, man. Like, we're out West. Like, I love it. I love it. It matches the vibe of the show and what we've got going on.
Yeah, I think I put it in there like half joking, and then you're like, I really like that. And then I look at it more, and the more I looked at it, I was like, this is actually pretty dope. And I was like creating all the stuff to go along with the show to get prepped for it. And then I'm like, should we have like old Wild West theme? And I'm like, okay, I'm going too far with this now. We just need to keep the conversation West Coast. But either way, dude, I couldn't agree more. And we've talked about this with not only internally with our team, but also with like people that we respect around the industry, from folks like Jake Boomer, Brian Smith, and more folks out from the West Coast that we're going to tap into the who's who of the West, from the people who are the top dogs that are out, like our two guests that we'll get into for today, from all the way to the names that deserve to be, heard more from the West Coast that are out here wreaking havoc on the tournament scene or just doing good for the fishing community. So, our goal is here to do a lot of good for the West because the West, like you said, deserves it, needs it, and there's a lot of really special fisheries, some really talented anglers, and it's gonna be pretty exciting, man.
I
And I think, yeah, go ahead.
I think that is one thing that you just mentioned there that I failed to mention in the opener there is the fisheries, dude. Like I think that is something that I would really love to dig into at the show, and this is going to be a progression of what we kind of feel our groove and what we want to talk about. But like the fisheries out west are just unmatched, way less pressure, and vast, right? I mean, I think that's the best way to describe it is the West is a vast place. It's a wild place with less people, and these fisheries are the same way. And so
Mhm.
you just get to see some really cool things and bass fishing in places where you would not expect bass to be, right? In our traditional brains and things. So I'm hoping to highlight some of that and talk about some of these special and uniqueness of the fisheries.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, I feel like countless times you and I have already chatted about certain lakes and parts of the region where you can go and bass fish, but also turkey hunt, elk hunt from your bass boat if you really wanted to. Like that
Yes.
kind of stuff, like you got my attention. Like places that don't have houses on the shoreline, that is pretty dang cool. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well with some of our guests today. But there's definitely one that who knows, it could turn into a series. It's gonna be interesting to see the different guests and stuff that we get from because the West for I don't know for from being from the East Coast, when you
Yeah.
talk about the West, it can feel like you can get so pigeonholed to California, where it's while we say just California, California in itself is gigantic, but also
Right.
it's not just Cali. It's Arizona, it's Idaho, it's Washington. There's so many other states that are factored in there that have a big, heavy bass fishing prevalence that just their voice isn't heard as much as some of the states and the communities in the East Coast. So that's a big goal here. And one thing that we'll say we were really excited about with this is a brand that isn't even West Coast, a brand that's very Midwest, that's kind of very ice fishing esque. And people know that we've been working with them for 2025 here at Serious Angler, and they're proud to be headlining the Seriously Western segment for 2025. And that is Amped Outdoors.
Mhm.
That's our team's preference when it comes to powering, whether it's our kayak, it's our boat, any outdoor adventure, some of their power stations that they have. And so we're really psyched to have them be the headline to try to help out some of the folks in the West Coast because that's the one thing that we love about working with the brands that we do is not only do they have product that we believe in, but they have people we believe in, good people, and that is the Amped Outdoors team. Uh, Matt is incredible. The team that they have over there, like from the customer service, things like that. We're hopefully going to bring that to the folks here on the West Coast. So excited for this series to be titled by the folks over at Amped Outdoors, man. But it sounds like you're about to get ready to get some of them Amped Outdoors batteries slapped in your boat and get turned around for a BAM tour. But basically a month, dude. Well,
Dude,
2 months
well, a month for
still.
the the pro-am, right,
Yeah,
prior to that.
coming up real
So,
quick.
man, it is here. It feels like things are rocking and rolling. Boat is in the shop right now. We're upgrading electronics, decided to keep the boat this year. So we're putting on the newest and greatest from Humminbird and excited to run a lot of that stuff this year. And as a part of that, we're doing the right thing battery wise to make sure we've got enough power. I'm running a 16-inch Apex at the console. So getting away from two graphs, slimming it down to one big graph. And that thing is a freaking beast, dude. Like
Oh yeah.
looking at that thing in the console, like I haven't even seen it yet. I just got a picture from the shop and it's like, holy cow, that thing is a flat screen. So, I'm excited to mess with that, but of course need to have that powered correctly and make sure that everything is strong there. So, excited to be involved with Amped this year and all that they have going.
Heck yeah. I mean, it's speaking of BAM, man, we'll just we'll kind of tease the folk a little bit, if you will. But there's not only are we going to get recaps and all that stuff from the events here on the podcast with you, but there's going to be a lot of content, we'll say, coming out of the BAM events from BAM side, from our side, things that people can look forward to, not only from the podcast, but also from content. So make sure you guys are following along on our social media because we'll have some pretty interesting things coming out there. And it sounds like my personal brand. I think I feel like I need to get sponsored by Delta this year for all the traveling that I'm going to be doing. But that's clue number two, I guess we'll say.
That's a
But
great what
it's
a
gonna be fun.
tease. I love that. No,
Yeah.
man, and in all seriousness, I'm super excited to fish this BAM Super 60 and a truly a professional trail out west. And the idea of having you around checking some stuff out in this part of the country should be
Poking
cool.
around. Yeah.
Poking around. Who's that
Yeah.
guy?
Who is that guy? Who is that dumb guy from the Northeast? Yeah. Uh, it's gonna be fun, man. Well, obviously, I'm sure people have a good idea of the clues that were given, but we'll obviously as times get closer, we'll unveil the full plan and what is to come of that with the BAM tour and Deacon obviously competing on that. So stay tuned for that. But man, before we get into um, today's show. We got a couple more notes, but kind of give the folks a little glimpse of what's to come on the first edition of Seriously Western.
Yeah, man. So first show ripping with some absolute hammers, and it got me thinking a little bit prior to this. With you, the Northeastern heading to the West, you're gonna hear some bro and some broad, some like just
Hello.
some California talk, right? And that's where these two guys are that way. I mean, they're just when you think of West Coast anglers, that is who we are having. The two inaugural or not inaugural, but two 2025 qualifiers on the Elite Series in the first ever Seriously Western show. We've got Mr. Cody Meyer and Andrew Loberg coming to you live. Super excited to see them this year, and they do a great breakdown on kind of the challenges and differences and things coming from the West and what they're looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah, there's some good chat about fishing the West, coming from the West to the East. Obviously, both of them embarking on a pretty big deal. Like, obviously, it's kind of crazy too. I was thinking about it when we were getting ready for the show. It's like Cody Meyer's a name that you've heard amongst the hammers for so many years.
Right.
And I was writing up the show notes and going over through some questions, and I'm like, wait a second. Cody's never been on the elite. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I always thought like a Justin Lucas before the BPT that he was wreaking havoc on the elites. It was just he was on the FLW. And I was just like, I can't believe he's actually technically going to be a rookie this year, which is
Right.
just nuts to think about. But yeah, some freaking hammer talk. Talking a little bit about some Cypher. It's a brand that Cody's spearheading and starting, which is a great segue to if you want to get some. They're at Omnia Fishing right now. Links down below. And like all of our anglers across the country, Omnia, we are a big supporter, big partner of Omnia. You guys take advantage of some of the sales that are going on over there, especially if you're a pro member. Right now is a great time to be an Omnia Pro member because it's double credits on everything. So if you go and spend $100, usually you get $10 in rewards. You get $20 in rewards. So the more you spend, the more rewards you get back, the more money you can go spend on whatever tackle, rods, reels, anything you want. So there's a bunch of sales going on. Make sure you guys head down to the links below. It's always in every show. We try to plug all the sales for you guys, as well as if you make an order at Omnia, use code Series10, save 10% off. Always nice to save more money to make more room for more fishing stuff. So always good time over at the Omnia folk. But man, anything else, or should we get into today's episode?
No, man, I think we rip it. I would say the last thing that I failed to mention to today's episode is there is some sneaky tackle discussion and a couple of little things that these boys give away. I mean, the West has always had some real finessey guys, and certainly both of these guys are very, very well versed in that realm. So excited to hear a little bit of those details as well.
Heck yeah. Well, without further ado, let's get into today's episode of Seriously Western with Mr. Cody Meyer and Andrew Loberg. All right, folks, we're here joined by a rookie and a vet. For folks that are tuning in on YouTube can see we were just talking about it offline, but we got a glorious backdrop here for Mr. Cody Meyer, and then the opposite of our good pal, Mr. Andy Loberg. But fellas, what's going on?
Man, not much. Good to be here. Good to see Andrew here. And yeah, man, just excited to be here. Thank you guys for having us on for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Heck yeah. Well,
yeah,
as we mentioned a little bit, Deacon, in the intro, but this is another Serious Angler episode, but it's actually the first edition of the Seriously Western segment, which is going to be pretty cool. We're trying to bring more life and some more voice to the West Coast. So it's pumped to have you guys on to kind of kick this thing off.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excited. Obviously, Andrew moved to Guntersville, but just grew up on the West. And I always tell guys, how growing up here, it's a disadvantage for travel wise, with going to the South or the Northern tournaments. But man, you got so many great opportunities to learn, desert fishing, to tidal water on the Delta, and big rods at Clear Lake. And then you have a lot of the spotted bass. So you can really learn everything that you'll see on tour. So I know we're both happy to grow up where we did and just excited to represent the West for sure.
Yeah, we're very fortunate with those lakes that we had growing up out there, and it basically shaped us to what we are now, being able to fish out here.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, guys, I mean, really, this is again premiering everything for us, just trying to cover more of the West and also pro anglers fishing the BPT, fishing the Elite Series from the West in general. And both of you guys this year, right? This is cool being the inaugural show, qualifying for the 2025 Elite Series. Both being the two Western guys out of the 10, which I think was or 9 guys, right? So I think it's super cool to see the both of you making it, was following along, watching it the entire year. I mean, I don't know what it is, man, about, I mean, the opens right now. I mean, it helps that, like Loberg and I have been buddies for a long time and fishing against each other since college. But like, I have been following the opens, I think at times, sometimes a little bit higher than the Elite Series, even just because I was looking at that next crop on who's gonna kick in. You know what I mean? It's been such a fun deal to follow as a fan.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You're right. Like I remember last year following, the class before and, checking in like on Bobby Lane and stuff. He left BPT and dude, the fishermen, I'll tell you what, the guys coming up, I've done this a long time and just to see the transformation with, new technology but the fishermen, they're way better now than ever before. And I think that's the guys coming up. Like I'm one of the older guys for sure, but these younger guys, I mean, dude, it's terrifying because back in the day, you would get a really good fisherman every couple of years it came up. Like I remember when Jacob Wheeler came on FLW Tour, and you're like, dude, this guy is really good. And now it seems like all these guys in the opens, all 9 are like that. I mean, just crazy talented. I think it's really cool to see. It's going to just get harder and harder, but you're right, man. It's really fun to watch and see who's coming on the Elite Series.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that, it feels like, with doing this podcast for, coming up here, it'll be almost 6 years in several months, honestly. But the thing we've heard a lot, especially coming from guys that are on the elites, is they hear this message: just wait for the guys next year. Just wait for the guys that are coming up next year. We've heard that countless times, and it just seems to be the truth. Like they're not wrong when they're saying it. It seems like every rookie class just keeps getting better and better and better. And we look at your guys' roster, and it's like, wow, is just every rookie it's just going to be insane to see where the elites are at, a couple of years from now if each rookie class is coming out. And I think you'd credit it to the new format where it is a gauntlet. Like it is like you got to go through hell to make it. So it's going to have the cream of the crop. So you ain't kidding when you guys are talking about what's the opens are churning out. But with that too, it's cool to see more guys come from the West. And I think it's cool to see, and I like to ask you guys here, with, both coming from the West, but having 2 different routes where, Cody obviously staying out West, it sucks now you got Deacon near you, that's bad for you, but
bad deal.
And then Andy, you're making the jump out to the East. I'm kind of curious. One, I guess, Cody, why stay out West? What was the reasoning for staying on the West Coast? And then after that, Loberg, we'll have to ask you too, like reason to make the switch.
Yeah. So for me, so my path was growing up. I did. There was Bassmaster Opens on the West back, and I want to say 2003, 4, maybe somewhere around there. Maybe 2005, and then they kind of went away, and it was always FLW for me. I've always been a really loyal guy, but just got my grassroots started through there and went on the FLW tour. And the first year or 2, I remember Justin Lucas and I traveled together, and he was single, and he was like, "I'm moving to Guntersville," and of course, he met his wife, and best decision he ever made. And I think really it came down to, this year I'll be married for 19 years. So just established family, my wife's family, my parents, now having children. I think it was, we thought about it for sure, but it's so hard to pull the trigger just with the family and everything already established. And I think if I was single, I would have absolutely probably joined Lucas there, 15 plus years ago. But it just kind of made it there. And truthfully too, I still really love the West. Like I love the feeling of the mountains and, fishing, like going to Lake Shasta or now in Idaho here, the Snake River. But it makes it hard, and it's a huge disadvantage from checking out lakes, practicing. But just with the family and stuff, that was kind of the route I went more.
Yeah, I was actually going to be curious with you saying that, saying if you ran it back and were in Lucas's position, so you would have gone to the Gville route, or would you have picked a different location out east?
Probably, around Guntersville. It probably would have been Lake Lanier. I had a buddy back then. I used to leave my truck boat at Clint Davis's house, Lucas and I, and Clint was, I don't know if he was in high school or college. He was really young, but we went, stayed there. We fished Guntersville quite a bit. It was nothing like it is now. Like, I mean, you'd go to Guntersville It was way smaller of a town. It's really just turned into a great city and welcoming and stuff. I probably would have done there or possibly Lake Lanier because one of my buddies, Jason Johnson, right on Lanier, and this is prior to half of California moving to Georgia too, right? Because now that area is blown up and it's crazy. But would have been one of those two areas really close to each other. But yeah, I mean, and we've thought about it in years past, like recently, we moved to Idaho 5 years ago, but it's like, hey, should we go to Tennessee or Alabama right now? And it just came down to, my wife's family and stuff. And then now, with kids, they're so established and friends and they're still really young, but it just makes it tough.
Yeah, that makes sense. I find it funny that the lakes to pick out in the East, you choose the biggest spotted bass lake. It's very fitting.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I love Lake Lanier, and man, it's so cool. It's changed, of course, too. But shoot, I always grew up. Of course, my favorite lake in the world is Clear Lake. It's hard not to say Clear Lake, especially now. Like everyone's catching over 30 pounds every day. But other than that, like my roots really were Oroville, Shasta, a little bit of Folsom, like just tons of spotted bass. And it's not like you're ever going to catch big ones. I don't know. I always kind of really liked that style. So Lanier just seemed like home. It was clear. It was a pretty lake, really nice homes there. And it's the best tournament spotted bass lake in the country for sure. I mean, there's so many good ones. Like a 4-pounder, Andrew would tell you, like on Oroville or Shasta, they're more common now, but shoot, back in the day, you'd be like, dude, I got a 4-pounder. Like they were, it's a really good one. And you're trying to get to that 12-pound, 13-pound range. And they're definitely better now, but Lanier, it's like, you need 5 4-pounders. So that was always cool, especially when we first found that place.
Heck yeah. Andy, what about you, man? Deserting the West.
Yeah, I know. I
making the move.
But my kind of background with fishing is, I've always wanted to do it since high school and going into college. Like Adam, we fished against each other in college, and I always had that goal. I'm like, I want to fish professionally. I don't care what it costs. I have to do it. And once I graduated college, the only kind of pro circuit that I had available to me to kind of make it national out east was the FLW and MLF series. Kind of like Cody, that I never fished a Bassmaster event besides a few of the college events that we did fish. So I graduated school, and each year I'm like, you're going to do the 3 FLWs a year, make the championship, and let's just see how the year goes. If you do well, great. If not, whatever. So graduated school, got a job, which I'm actually still working right now with the same job. And the first couple of years were pretty tough. I mean, it was had a little bit of success, but fishing those 3 tournaments a year, definitely, I got some experience out of the front of the boat, fishing against all the Western legends of the whole California, Washington, Arizona, all those guys out there, and definitely learned a ton. And then in 2021, I had some success winning a couple tournaments, and I was kind of in a position to where I was living at home. I won a couple tournaments, saved up some money, and I had the opportunity to fish the MLF, the pro circuit, a few years back. And it was kind of one of those deals like, you just got to go. Like, you just got to put your eggs in the basket and see what you're made of. And I was single, and I'm still single, but I was single, and I just
advertisement.
packed everything up, paid my entries. I'm like, let's just give it a rip. And I actually left my job that whole year, competed all year. I did pretty decent, and I was kind of living at a couple people's houses in Gunnersville at the time, that first year, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, this place. I've been around Texas. I've been, to Tennessee. I've been, down to Florida and all these places that year. And for some reason, Gunnersville, obviously having Justin Lucas and Philip Dutra, he moved out here, and a few other people, having some California guys close definitely helped. But just like the hills and the mountains and the fishing obviously is really great around here. Just kind of reminded me a little bit of home. Like, you go to Texas and you go to some of these other like plain states like Oklahoma, it's just so flat. You kind of get a little homesick. But for here, it definitely felt a little bit more like home compared to some of these other states. So after that first year, I actually bought a piece of property here. I bought 1.5 acres, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I want to move here eventually. You know, I bought it, and I'm like, I got to save some money, put a house. So long story short is fished the pro circuit again the year after that. And with everything going on back at home with just affordability of living, it just didn't make sense for me to be like, let's travel back and forth. You know, I don't have a family, no wife or kids. And if you're going to be fishing for a living, for me out here, I'm like, I got to be somewhere central. I just can't afford to go back and forth. And I got to establish somewhere that's central. And Guntersville was the place. So I finally did that, and this last year was able to put a house up and planted some roots.
Heck yeah, dude.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Good. I know, like, I remember when I was kind of in the debate on moving somewhere, right? I had a lot of conversations with yourself of like, man, I love it with where we're at. And I totally see your point. I mean, for the traveling that I did do around the country fishing wise prior to kind of landing west and staying west, like, I agree, man. Like the Oklahoma, Texas stuff, I'm not super drawn to. Like the fishing's cool,
Right.
but like I want some topography, right? Like that's why I
Right.
love the West so much and
Exactly.
enjoy that aspect. But I'm glad to hear the house is up. I remember you're like, dude, I bought this piece of ground, but like I'd like to build on it one day, but when am
Yeah.
I going to build on it? So I'm
Yeah.
glad you made that happen. Good for you.
Yeah. Finally made it all happen. But yeah, the people around here, I mean, as you guys all know, I mean, it's just a great spot to live. The travel's a lot easier. And just affordability, you know, that's really what it's about.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like scrolling social media, especially, seems to be heightened like in the fall when all the circuits have kind of are on pause for the off season, whatever. And I feel like you could run a pro tournament every day on Guntersville with how many guys seem to be living or fishing down there.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's so popular, but it's a cool place to be, man. That's for sure. But
Well, that's a good segue, I guess. A question I have for the both of you. I mean, we're talking off season right now. Season, you've got at least Elite Series, got a little bit of time here. What does it look like your off season being both where you are? I'll start with you, Cody.
Yeah, so my off season really is now it's become more like the soccer dad, right? I mean, the kids are doing all kinds of stuff, and I still fish. Like I don't hunt anymore. I used to, and so now I just love to fish. So I definitely still fish. Go chase maybe some big smallmouth in northern Idaho, or fish the Snake River. But it's a lot of finally home, kind of recharging your batteries, fish when you can, and for me, football practice for my son, or softball or baseball, and just kind of that. But so many guys in the sport will, they got like bass fishermen are you practice, you're into like competing, and I think a lot of good bass fishermen are really good at hunting too, because it's scouting for deer, looking, doing this, doing that. And most guys, it seems like they do that. I haven't done that in a long time, but off season for me is just really staying around the house. Hate to say this, but like the pumpkin patches, we go to a lot of them, stuff like that. So, but it's cool. I really enjoy that. And just, going to football games here, Boise State, and
Dude.
just enjoying that. So, dude, I love it. I personally, every year, I absolutely love when the season starts and I'm driving out and I'm like, sweet, man, I can listen to whatever I want, stop and get Chipotle when I want or whatever.
Oh,
And
man.
then the season you start, and after like 3 or 4 or 5, you're like, oh my gosh, man. And it's a grind. And then come that last event, you cannot wait. It doesn't have come quick enough to be done. And then you're excited to come home, and then you're home, and it's crazy. You're home for like 2 weeks and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, you're looking for something to fish. So it's always exciting to start. It's definitely exciting to end, but that off season is really needed for me, just to kind of recharge, reorganize tackle, focus, and then, do stuff with the family, and, you're gone so much, me, that you really cherish those times now with the family and the kids, and watch them grow.
Yeah, and shoot, now you got Cypher. Now you got that to keep you busy too.
Yeah. So we got that. We'll dive into that for sure. But there's always something going, and the further you go, I've told so many people this over the years. Are like, dude, I want to be a bass fisherman. There's so much more involved than just catching bass. Like, if it was that simple, it'd be so easy. But handling sponsors and make sure they're happy, and trying to do, what you are under contract to do, and that takes up a lot, and working shows and stuff like that. So just like for me, when I'm not fishing, you're always, it seems like you're on the phone, or you're doing something, or you're going to Wisconsin for a show, or Chicago, or ICAST. And so there's a lot to it, but man, what a cool opportunity. I've always thought, wonderful opportunity in a career that, it's weird. But I will say, I tell guys all the time, because Andrew, you'll hear it now too. Hey, what do you do for work? And you say, bass fisherman. Oh my gosh, can you make a living doing that? You're like, well, yeah. And you start getting into it. So now, for me, guys, to be honest, like when I'm flying, oh, what do you do? I'm just a potato farmer from Idaho. Oh, okay. They'll never ask you another question.
No.
So I save a lot of
Wow.
time with that. I get some sleep on the plane. But there is a ton that goes with being an angler. It's so hard to just go out there and just strictly catch bass and make enough money. So there's a ton of stuff you got to do on the side, sponsor wise, and stuff like that. And I always said, KVD and Aaron Martins were about the only two that could make a living without doing anything but catching fish. So you stay busy year round for sure.
Yeah, you got to have those
Totally, man.
backdrops that Cody's got.
Yeah, you gotta work for this here. This is
Take
I
notes,
put in
Loberg.
like
Yeah.
4 days of my life hanging this stuff up, trying to get every little evergreen Yamamoto package put together. It's funny, we did a podcast, a couple of them last year, and a couple Canadian guys were like, "Dude, that is the best wall of Gary's I've ever seen in my life." I'm like, "Gary's?" Oh yeah, Gary's, yeah. So we always laugh about that, but yeah,
I
no,
like
it's
that.
cool. This is
I've never heard Gary's.
Yeah, old Gary's. We got a wall full of them, but this is
love it.
Dude,
I was telling you guys earlier, like years of just product stored up, put it up here. Now I'm scared to even touch it. So like I'll need one of these, shower blows or Cincos to go fishing around here. And I'm like, dude, I just go and I just buy it. Now it's just just so it keep the wall looking good. But I promise you guys, I'm really not this organized, because all my rods are behind me here. You can't see, in a pile, and there's stuff all over my feet. So
I saw your truck at the last open, so I know what it's like.
yeah, dude, it's brutal, man. Yeah, I get made fun of, on the truck. Like when I pack, Andrew's done it. You pack for the year, right?
Mhm.
So you have everything. You're like, man, and that'd be so nice, like living in Guntersville or whatever, or somewhere back there just to go, because you go, okay, we're going smallmouth fishing, right? So you just pack all your smallmouth gear, maybe a little bit of northern largemouth fishing. For me, I got to pack everything, like from Florida to New York to Missouri, wherever we're going. So it's hard to stay clean for sure.
can we just? I can't get off the idea of calling them Garys. I feel like we
Dude.
need to make a movement to just
Yeah,
stop saying Yamamoto. We're just gonna call them
Yeah,
Garys.
stop
That's
going
awesome.
last name.
dude,
Hey, toss me some of those Garys.
Hey, it was Brian. It's not Gussie. Gussie and I have been buddies forever, and he calls them Garys too. So I've heard. It's funny, you stay with all these guys, right? Like you stay with a bunch of guys from the South, and you come home saying all kinds of stuff, and then if you come out west, you're saying bro and hella, and you go to Canada and you're saying stuff like, dude, beauty, and dude, that's a honey, and Gary's. So yeah,
Garys.
we got the wall of Gary's for sure, and it is hella cool, bro. No.
I love it.
You get home and your kids are like, Dad, what are you talking about?
Oh, dude, you're the best. You're the best. One of the best human beings on this earth lives in Sarcoxie, Missouri, Jeremy Lawyer. And I traveled with him 1 year on the BPT. Dude, I've had, just looking back, like some crazy team partners or travel partners from, Justin Lucas and Clint Davis to when Jordan Lee was in college and thinking about doing this, to Gussie and David Dudley. I mean, you can imagine that. And then Jeremy Lawyer. And when I come back from a trip, being at Jeremy Lawyer's house, it's like a whole new vocabulary was just installed into me. Because even I come home and my wife's like, what in the heck? I'm like, Sarcoxie, Missouri. And we start laughing. And so it's funny. But you do pick up on that, because I have been saying y'all and stuff like that a lot more. And I'm like, you all or y'all? That's what the wife says anyways. But Andrew, you probably get it. Like,
I was gonna
Oh, yeah.
say,
There's a lot of different languages in America that you don't realize unless you're a bass fisherman.
yeah, and you just hear it. And
have you picked
crazy.
up an accent, Loberg?
No,
Like being down there.
I can't. For some reason, I cannot do the y'all thing. I can't get myself to say it for some reason.
When you go to say it, like, you actually, I mean, I've done this. I actually think about it, right? You're like, dude, should I say it or should I not? Should I be like, y'all? No. And
I do the same thing.
Yeah, you literally think about it, and so it just comes off super unnatural. But it's funny because a good one, Tristan McCormick, I roomed with him last year. He's got a kind of an accent, but not really. And so every time I called, or he called me and my wife was around, I'd put it on speakerphone, and my wife would instantly turn from Northern California, Idaho, same accent in these states. The whole West is kind of the same voice, right? Except California, the hellas and bros. But she will instantly try to talk Southern. She'll be like, "Hi, Tristan, how you doing?" I'm like, "Come on, babe, you don't have that down." But it is funny for sure.
I love it.
I get that now and then too. Here, living in Buffalo and only being 10 minutes from the border, I say "a" every now and then people assume I'm from Canada if I bring that any south.
Yeah,
they just, are you from Canada?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I still like accents. To me, are just, I mean, they're hilarious. I still think the best experience I've ever had was at a college national championship, where there were some boys from Alabama, and I think Loberg, you were probably at the same event, and these guys were sitting at a table across from us at the banquet deal, and they're like, "Man, where are y'all from?" And we're like, "We're from Colorado." They're like, y'all don't say anything right. He's like, first of all, they're called mountains. Like, he's like, you say it with a T. Like, they just were going crazy with all these different things, and I was just like, where am I right now? Like, I'm just so confused on how people even communicate. Like, I don't even understand what's going on.
Yeah,
they don't pronounce vowels down there, Deacon.
No. It was killing me. But well, good. Well, and I mean, really, I think the other question we had, Loberg, is your off season, man. I feel like you're running, like, just because you're in a place where there's so many derbies. What does your off season look like?
Yeah, no, it's very true. I've been trying to fish as many little, like, jackpot and whatever tournaments around here, just to kind of hone the skills in and keep learning. This is my first winter here in Guntersville, North Alabama. So on the weekends, I try to, fish as much as I can, and I still work. So when I'm not fishing, I'll try to work a 40-hour week and stack some money and help them out and do all that. But trying to get the boat organized. I pick up a new boat this week and got to get it wrapped and rigged and ready to roll. And like Cody said, keep all the sponsors happy and really just getting the season going, man. I'm ready for it. It's kind of one of those things, like Cody said, like last year, you're like, that was a long season. I just need a break. And then, like, a couple weeks in, you're like, I need a tournament right now. Like, fun fishing doesn't even do it at all. Like, I need a tournament. I don't even want to go fun fishing. I want a tournament. I want to practice, and I want to be punished. Like, I want to go.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm the same way. Like, fun fishing's great, hanging out with some buddies or something. But I think when you fish tournaments so long, you're so competitive, you can't turn it off, right? Like, if you catch a big one in practice, you're like, dude, you're almost disappointed. Like, man, why did I catch that thing? this sucks. And like, you're not going to catch it again. But then when it's a tournament and you're looking in your live well and you're turning around, it means so much more. And you just like, you're right. Like you'd rather do it on a tournament than in practice. So might as well just fish a tournament if you can.
Yeah, the tournaments are so addicting. And then the other thing, I've been trying to shape up this property, and I'm building the deck right now. And I've been gone so much this last year at this place, I just never was able to do anything to it. So just trying to keep busy with that, and yeah, just grinding away.
I love it. I love it. I mean, for me, I'm the same way. So this year I'm going to fish the BAM 60 out west here. So I'm fired up fishing some of that. I'd love to get your guys' take on kind of the West and what's happening now that we also have Major League Fishing also kind of pulling from the West. But what I have found, because I'm and we've talked about this, like Bailey's good at going fun fishing and enjoying it. I'm much more of the same way. Like it has to be a derby for me. I feel like I get a heightened level of just fun and excitement. But I have moving here to Idaho. I have been screwing around. This is good segue to talk a little bit of cipher stuff, Cody.
Yeah.
But the whole mid strolling stuff for crappie, that's my fun thing now. Like going and chasing crappie on the Snake River or perch up, when it's available and open water north of us. Like, dude, I've been having so much fun chasing panfish around. Like that's my new fun fishing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Idaho, I get asked all the time. Like I grew up, I feel like in just the mecca of really cool lakes, like Clear Lake. If you've never been there, it's so cool. Shasta, and the Delta, just awesome places. So moving to Idaho, they're like, man, is there bass there? The bass fishing here is so good. It is unbelievable. Like the Snake River, like you just mentioned, it is, you don't have to throw anything but a topwater, a jerk bait, a chatter bait, a swim bait. You could scope, you could do whatever, and you smash bass all day long. You don't go 5 minutes without catching something, it seems like. And then like there's panfish, Cascade Lake. We went up there, and there's going to be a vlog coming out on Tackle Warehouse. And we went for bass. I've never been there, never seen it. Caught a lot of little bass and a couple like 3-pounders. Dude, I caught 2.5-pound yellow perch, like crazy. I mean, just giant, huge yellow perch.
Eaters.
And so unbelievable. But yeah, the fishing is so cool, and so I like that. You mentioned Cipher. That's you guys haven't heard about it. It's a new tungsten company, so it's something that me, Cody Murray, and Ryan Chris, all here right here in the Treasure Valley area, the Boise area. We've been working on this for a couple years now, and what it is mostly we got a really cool nail weight, but it is tungsten jig heads. Yeah, there's the nail right there, but tungsten jig heads. And, for me, I was telling the boys here, I've always been a live scoper, but like structure, right? Grass, rock pile, stuff like that. In the last couple of years, it's new to all of us, but the whole jig head and the minnow. So we felt the need to have a tungsten jig head that was going to be weighted right, where it is horizontal. It's not just all the weight in the front and it's head down. You just don't see minnows and stuff swimming head down. They're always really horizontal. And but one with the right hook, where the hook had the right bend. The eye wasn't too big, so there wasn't a big eye above the weight that can throw off the angle of a hook set. And the gap, right? Like I wanted the right gap. So we spent a couple of years. I wish we had it out a couple of years ago, but it's finally out. So it's Cipher Fishing. It's tungsten. We got a really cool mid-stroll head, a ball head, a nail weight. It's all stuff that, I put my name on, right? So like I have a ton of faith in it and trust. So I promise you guys, you won't spend your hard-earned money and be disappointed. But really cool stuff, especially in this area. Well, anywhere, but we tested it in this area. Like you said, Adam, big perch, tons of bass, largemouth. It's got a big enough gap in the hook where, a lot of those big largemouth, they got such a big lip, you just could skin hook them basically, so you could still grab some meat of that and hook those big ones. But I personally have had a blast doing it, and just being involved with it and talking and getting prototype after prototype, and you feel bad because you're like, dude, sorry, you got to send this back and redo it. But that's been enjoyable. That's been a really fun off season for me this year and last year. helping make all this cipher stuff.
Heck yeah. What
I
we'll do
love it.
too is for the people that are tuning into this, we'll the jig head, like the nail weight, everything that's cipher wise that's on Omnia, we'll actually link it down in the show description. So if people want to go check it out and get some as well, use code series 10. You guys can save some money on it too, but definitely go check them out on Omnia and grab you a few. But that's gonna be sweet, man. I'm sure you guys are working on some other stuff to come down the timeline, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have a ton of stuff, and it was all a lot of thought too, right? Like the tungsten nail weight, it doesn't look like the Pagonia or Patagonia, whatever you say, that normal style. I remember throwing a Nico rig in 1999, right, in high school, and smashing them, and like the transformation, how long it's come to now. Like I fished with some Japanese guys in the early 2000s on Clear Lake, where they were catching 20 to my 1 or 2. And I'm like, what in the heck? And it was tungsten, right? Like back in the day, there's a little bit of tungsten outside of the worm. And so it was clicking on some of those rocks. And then so I was doing it with lead. I couldn't get a bite hardly. And so we wanted like all the weight tungsten on the outside of the head. So not just a little bit of a nail weight like a Pagonia style, but the whole weight. So it's making some sound. It's catching more fish. It holds really good, and it's just good stuff. Like I say, I've been through it all last year on the opens, and definitely proud of it. But it's fun to make some stuff. Tons of stuff coming, and I just enjoy doing some of that and talking to the guys and having stories and telling stories about something that happened along the road there. But they're really cool. So yeah, good stuff. Like I say, Omnia's got it. And a variety of places, Tackle Warehouse, but yeah, save yourself some money and use that code for sure.
Heck yeah. And Loberg obviously sounds like you've been using it down in Gville and stuff. Kind of walk us through like the whole setup that you've been throwing with those jig heads.
Yeah, I bought some, like I was telling Cody last week, on Tackle Warehouse, and I really, really like the head. The hook is really, really stout. It's got the weed guard that you can leave on or off, whatever you need to do. But it's got a really good roll action. It's got a stout hook, and for these big largemouth out here, it doesn't bend or anything like that. But it's not too thick to where you can't penetrate. You know what I mean? Like on a lighter line, like a 5 or 6 pound test. But yeah, it's been awesome, man. You could, for the 3-aught, is it a 2-aught?
This one's
so we have a mid-stroll head that's got a 2-aught.
2-aught, right?
Yes.
Those are the ones I bought, and I was using that 5-inch minnow style, and it held up perfect.
Yeah.
What I think I'm most impressed by, and like the whole tungsten, right? Like, I mean, we've seen other tungsten jig heads kind of come out, but the keeper like sucks on tungsten heads always because it's, it'll slide off or whatever it may be. But like, I mean, this is just a 3.3, right? I think this is a big bite, not a Kitech, but that's a 1/4 ounce. And like, I mean, dude, I can really pull on that thing.
Yeah.
And with how wide those deals are, like, I've always been a super glue guy, and it's a pain in the butt. I have a box full of Kitechs that I already have super glued, like, you know what I mean, that I just won't use again, except for practice or an A rig or whatever. And like that keeper being as wide as it is, like, man, that's what I'm excited for. And screwing around with, because I fly through baits with keepers and it's such a pain.
It's cool. We were experiencing, 10 to like up to 14 fish on one Kitech, right? And like a shad shaped swimmer. So that was really cool. In fact, I did a vlog with TW, and we were throwing a shad shaped swimmer and had one pack, and we were fishing it and messing around, new from Yamamoto. And they were, we went through a few, and then we put it on the head, and I had 3 left, and we started in this vlog, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, we got to finish. And I literally have 3 left, and we made it work. So that was really cool. So tungsten's more expensive, of course, because it's so high, the density of it, tungsten to pour is really hard. Like you can't pour a hook in tungsten because you have to have it so hot, it would literally melt the hook. So it's more of a process, but you're going to save money going through baits, right? And for me, the biggest thing is when you hook them, like you really get them. So I don't care what it took. Like I don't like to lose bass, and so it just hooks them really good. So that was really cool. But yeah, there's a variety of styles. A lot of that tungsten, like I said, there's just a barb, and we're gonna have some of that to come down the road. But to start, I really wanted just that horizontal, bait to lay real horizontal. Those barbs, they slide up on there. It's a resin, and it's a coated hook too, right? So like years ago, we didn't even see anything like that. And I think everyone that's throwing a coated hook, whether it be a treble hook or flipping hook, you'd rather have that. For one, it's not giving off that shine. Like I just don't. Maybe if it's clear water and those smallmouth or spots, occasionally they'll see that flash and that shine of a black nickel or bronze, and you might not get a bite. This is coated, so it's flat, and then it's just going to be super sticky and penetrate really good.
So I'm curious for the both of you guys. Obviously, with Andrew, all the time he putting it over winter, but then also Cody, like with this, when experimenting and making this head, that takes a lot of fish. That's a lot of focus group, a lot of time, obviously throwing and dialing in a jig head minnow. I'm kind of curious from the rod standpoint. You guys prefer now throwing a jig head minnow because they've seen the trend lately of guys going down to the 6 or 6.5 foot spinner rod to the guys that prefer a longer rod. Like Gussie, I think prefers like a 7.2 to 7.4 sometimes. So I'm kind of curious your guys' go-to with the whole rod deal. Like, Loberg, we'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with a lot of different rods the last year or so. I've gotten down to a few that I really, really like. If I'm throwing a minnow style bait that's bigger than 5 inches, it's going to be a 7-foot rod. It's going to be like a medium, kind of a fast type rod. But I won't really go any longer than 7 foot. I kind of like a little bit shorter rod for feel and everything. And then for anything smaller than 5 inches, I use a 6.4 or a 6.6, 6.4 style rod. It's just something I've kind of gotten used to, and I don't know. I just like it because I've used a 7.6 before. I've gone way up and I've gone way down in that 6.4 to 7-foot range, depending on the minnow size and the weight of the head is definitely kind of my style.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't really know enough, to be honest. Like I have a 7.4 from Daiwa. I thought it was great when you're making a long cast and you're trying to, like, if they're real high up, you're trying to keep the bait up above them, because when it goes below, it's hard to get them. And so I've used that, but I have just kind of locked in my 7-foot finesse rod from Daiwa. Same thing. But when Andrew said that, the 6.4, 6.6, so I'm looking at some, you can't see them, but Daiwa gave me a bunch of prototypes, and they're all based off of Koya Fujita. He's got a rod in Japan, just absolutely deadly with live scope over in Japan. He fishes the Elite Series, and he's got some like 5.6, 5 foot 6 inch rods, and some 6.2 and 6.4s, and like weird sizes like that. So I have a few prototypes, but I've actually never thrown them. I just kind of stick with that 7-footer for me. It seems to work really good. It hooks them good, and mostly too, like, I could throw a lot of things with the rod, a drop shot or whatever. So it just makes it simple for me traveling. But I bet you're going to see like some really, Pacific rods come out in the future. I'd be curious to see like what some of these guys, because I've been seeing Koya's rods and they're like that. And, of course, Andrew, you travel with like Emil Wagner. He's super good with some of that. So I'd be curious to see what some of that stuff works. But I think anything like that around a 7-foot for me is perfect. So,
yeah.
Who's gonna be the first to throw it on an ice rod?
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep going shorter.
Yeah.
There's a concept idea. That'd be pretty humorous. But yeah, that actually brings up a good point too for this year. Who are you guys traveling with?
Loberg?
I'm traveling with Emil Wagner, Tucker, and Paul Marks.
That's a squad. Okay.
That's the squad. Yeah. I'm just going to travel with Jordan Lee. So we've been buddies a long time. It was hard because I have so many good friends that over the years we started with FLW, Gussie, and Stetson Blaylock and stuff. But yeah, Jordan and I talk every week. And so I figured it'd be a pretty cool and yeah, just go go make it happen. I know when I say I speak for Loberg too. Like I know it's really cool to say you could fish the Elite Series. Like I know for me, I've always went the FLW route, did it for well over 10 years, and then BPT for 5, and then I really all these years that like ICAST and all these shows, ISE, everyone always asked me, when are you going to go fish Bassmaster? And I was just content and maybe a little scared. It's hard to say, but I'm like, I don't, I'm happy where I'm at. And then to actually go do it is really cool because when you think of bass fishing, um, for me, it's always been the classic, stuff like that. And I've never fished one and fished tons of Forestwood Cups and some red crest and just never even had an opportunity. So, man, hopefully I could do that someday. But just to fish the elites, right, Andrew? Like, it
cool.
just sounds different. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it was weird, like making my jersey for next year and having the Elite Series deals on there. You're like, I don't know if it's real or not yet.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
It's really cool, and I can't wait. It's going to be a really nice opportunity for this year.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
looking forward to keeping up with you guys. And sounds like we have the new freshman house, Deacon, with Loberg and the boys. But we looking forward to keeping up with you and Jordan shenanigans too, Cody. That'll be good, man.
Yeah, we'll have something good, hopefully. I mean, I'd like to say I've had some crazy travel partners. David Dudley was the most interesting. Love that guy. But boy, we stayed at some places and have some great stories for another podcast. But yeah. I think that's for me, traveling. Like I kind of love the whole fact that if I wasn't doing this for a profession, I would have never seen any part of the country. And just like Andrew, he's got some stories too of just different states and places and being on the road. And there's always something going on. And I've always kind of wanted to dig into some of that. So that's another podcast down the road. But man, I got stuff and stories that are unbelievable. So
sounds like a in-person podcast at the Classic over some beers. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Just let her rip, man. Like it would be. It'd be good. But I mean, dude, I've had stuff from snakes in the boat to a scorpion in my bed to a room flooding, tires falling off, axle fell off, just you name it, 20 years of going. And it's happened. Something's happened. I've probably seen it.
Yeah, when you go from California to back here, there's anything can happen in the places that you stay. It's basically from California, like once you get past like Nebraska and like everything in between that zone is like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. That's like a little bit. There's some stories to be had in those sections of the states.
It's big open country, dude.
Yeah,
it's a lot of big open highway.
Dude, I had my boat, the tow hitch, the pin that holds in the tow hitch break going down the road, and my boat fell off and went through the back of my truck in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And the first guy that stopped was a bass fisherman. He's like, "What's up, Cody?" I'm like, "Huh?" I mean, just super random. Like, where else would that have ever happened? Probably nowhere. But this guy was literally able to get me to a tire shop, get the boat out of my truck, just all kinds of stuff. I mean, crazy stories. So yeah, it's cool. But traveling, it's always very interesting, but really exciting, really fun. And looking forward to doing it next year for sure on the elites.
I love it. Well, I know Cody too, you've got a kind of a hard stop here coming up to get out of here. But one question I do have for you guys, both being from the West Coast, to kind of wrap things up here. We're seeing, changes happening. It's always been a struggle to get back east and fish at the true pro level. What challenges does the West face, and where can things improve? Is it good that they're doing things on their own a little bit now? We're seeing this kind of migration almost of stuff to some degree with things, but what's your take on kind of the status of the West right now? And go ahead, start with you, Cody.
Yeah. It's for starters, I always give anybody that comes from the West to fish, whether it's the Opens, Toyota Series, Invitationals, BPT, Elite, so much props because throughout my time here, a lot of people have talked about it. Few people have done it, and it's hard, man. Like it really is. You got to rip the Band-Aid off, and you got to do it. And I think to really do it at a high level, of course, you have to be, fish on the East Coast. But it's kind of sad seeing like MLF, I always say the Stren series, but it started with Stren and EverStart, Toyota series to be gone, right? So you have one Bass on the West Coast, and you have BAM. And I know Mark Lassane. I think he's a great guy. I think this BAM 60 is going to be really good, and it's going to give those anglers a platform, because that's what we need, right? Like myself, I started in the EverStart series back in the day. Andrew, same thing. Toyota series, which is the same thing. And but you build up your confidence a little bit, and then you take that step. So that's what the BAM 60s are going to do. Now, the West is up against challenges for sure, because price of gas is way higher out here in a lot of states, California especially. And now we got this crazy, like this golden zebra mussel that I've heard is shut down a lot of places, the New Maloney's and some of these lakes. I'm not even really sure. So it's just going to make it an extra challenge. But I am always so, supportive of anybody that tries it on the West Coast. I'm really happy that BAM stepped up and they're doing a professional circuit out there that can get some of this young guys like Andrew to come out and to make their dreams come true. You start there and you can go, or you can stay out there and at least have an opportunity to make it.
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off a little bit what he said. With MLF being gone, yeah, it's a huge bummer, but I think it also gives them a very big opportunity with One Bass and BAM and Mark Lassane to really expand their production and really give those anglers a platform and really hone in all those anglers, because like in years past, like the last 10 or so years, or maybe even not that many, boat draws have gotten down a little bit, but it may condense those and bring them back up. And having BAM, that Super 60 and even the One Bass Pro-Ams, that is a huge level. There's a lot of stiff competition, and winning one of those or even a top 10, it can give a young angler or any angler, the confidence of fishing those lakes back at home, the opportunity to come back out here. One of my travel partner from last year in the Opens, Christian Ostrander, he's fishing the Opens again this year. There may be a couple other guys doing it as well, but having those big those platforms like that just are a huge confidence booster to come back out here, because that's really what tournament fishing is about, is being able to get on a platform like one of those two series and just gain confidence to go to the next level, or just to go fish another high level tournament that you've never been to. I mean, that's really what it's about. So I think, yeah, it's a bummer that MLF, and it made it just be this next year. They may come back in a couple of years, whatever it may be, but I think it may give them an opportunity to kind of blow everything up, get it all publicized, and it could be good for them, for sponsors and things like that.
Totally, man. Couldn't agree more from the condensing standpoint. I mean, I had Alan Gray, who's just a great guy, right? The tournament director out west, on after I fished the last ever, I think, at the Delta this last year, the Toyota series, and potentially. And I mean, he straight up, it was like, man, there's not enough boats to support. I think condensing to two is going to make it better.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have stiffer competition, better tournaments. So I'm excited to see it happen and be a part of it. So
yeah. And there's a lot of, team trails and stuff. I've always thought it was an issue back home, where there were so many team trails, and I wish I could have fished all of them, that it kind of spread everybody out. And I think if you can kind of condense a few of those, and with One Bass and BAM, I think it'd be a pretty good deal.
Awesome.
Heck yeah.
Agreed.
Well, do we have you guys for one more question, or you guys gotta run?
Sure.
Yeah, you gotta go, Cody.
I got to go pretty quick, but I can make it quick real fast.
Okay.
Well, so this is one of our favorite parts of the new show for 2025, and that is our Amped Outdoors electric take. And so with that, we can leave it on this. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Feel free to choose yourself if you want, but your guys' predictions on, one, who will win the Classic this year, AOY Rookie of the Year. I don't know. Did you even qualify as a rookie this year, Cody?
I do not, and I am a rookie, but I can't believe, I'm not going to be a rookie, guys. Like, what the heck? No, but they said you can't win an X amount of money. I don't know what that is, but I don't make it. But here's my prediction. Okay, so rookie of the year is going to be the guy next to me, Andrew Loberg.
Oh, wow.
So there we go.
That was the sweetest thing I've ever seen.
He's going to do it, and no pressure. He's got it. The classic is going to be won by. Where is the classic? I don't even know. Oh, it's Texas. Ray Roberts. So I'll go Jordan Lee. Right. I mean, I'm traveling with them. I fished these tournaments back in the day. They were called the TTBCs, Toyota Texas Bass Classic, and I fished 7 of those back in the day. Really fun tournament. And I made the final day on Ray Roberts, and I lost a giant bass flipping a tree. And it was hung in the tree, and I was trying to get it out, and I ended up finishing like 5th or 4th, and I lost the whole TTBC because that one bass. So that place still haunts me. But Jordan was right there. He did good, and he caught him on an old school reaction innovation Vixen, the old one, and he did really good. So there we go. Maybe Jordan and Loberg for AOY.
Love it.
Rookie of the year.
Well, I'm going to try my hardest to win Rookie of the Year, but if it's not me, I'm going to give it to my dog, Emil Wagner. He's a very, very good fisherman. And the classic, I was actually going to say Jordan because he's just a freak. If not Jordan, the king of Texas, Lee Livesey.
Yep.
He's going to be tough to beat on that. He's going to be tough to beat on that.
Dude, Jordan does just show up in those big events, man. I'm excited to see that. That's a good take.
I'll tell you what, I fished with him many times. He doesn't even care. I know it sounds stupid, but like you put in so much thought. Matt Lee, he would travel and pre-practice and do so much. Jordan would be like, wow, whatever. Like that line was on from the last tournament. It's good enough for this next tournament. And he blasts them, dude. So it's hard to a lot of this is mental too, right? Like between the ears, and he just is like, dude, he's like Patrick Mahomes, right? Like I'm not pulling for Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, Cody Murray. Right now, but that's what he's like. Like he's so when it comes crunch time and the big one, like he's gonna be hard to handle. So
it's true.
Yeah, got that mentality.
Keep
afraid.
Yeah,
love it. Well, boys, appreciate the time. Thanks for taking time out to get up on the show, and appreciate you joining the first edition of the Seriously Western here at the Seriously Angler Podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here. We'll see you bros later.
Yeah. Seriously Western, baby.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was good.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was a hell of a time.
Hell of a time.
Love it. All right, folks, there you have it. That is the very first episode of Seriously Western. Again, to add some clarity for folks, is these episodes are going to be bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, you're going to have Seriously Western. And then on the weeks that you don't have Seriously Western, you'll have the real biology that we're doing with our fisheries biologist friend, Mr. Stephen Barden. But they're all Serious Angler episodes. We're just deciding that we need to have some little mix, keep things fresh for you guys, give some different perspectives, because even if you're from the East Coast, or if you're from Texas, or if you're from Michigan, the Seriously Western shows will still have a lot of reason for you to tune in, even if you're not from the West Coast, because there's a lot of nuggets, a lot of learning information that you can get from these West Coast guys. And I can speak on that, Deacon, in that some of my favorite anglers to tune in and watch are the likes of a Cody Meyer, who we had on today, but like Justin Lucas, Brent Ayler, some of the guys I study very heavily, Brandon Polnick. I mean, you can have your major 3 that I definitely pay close attention to right there. And they're all West Coast guys. So it's cool to bring that to fruition. And I'm excited for the shows upcoming for Seriously Western, man.
Dude, totally. I'm fired up for it, and I'm excited to be a part of the BAM 60 and everything rocking and rolling here shortly. On that same vein, which it'll be great for our next episode here in 2 weeks to talk about maybe some of the results here. It's starting, man. Kind of the kickoff for the West Coast on your bigger tournaments is actually always north, which is interesting. You would expect it to be Arizona, and I mean that has
Yeah.
happened, right? We had Bassmaster Kayak Tournament go out
Yeah.
Havasu,
Shout
but
out to Drew
the
Gregory for the dub.
dude, unreal, super cool. I
That's
can't wait
insane.
to tune into how he did that because that lake to me is as special as man. That is one of the most special places on this planet. It is so cool. But I digress. The first kind of your pro am style tournaments and pro events out west are on Shasta. Spotted
Mm.
bass fishery. It's full of a lot of water right now. The reports I'm hearing are like there's a lot of water. Some of the females have moved up earlier than you would anticipate for being this time of the year. I mean, it's a cold, like Shasta has a mountain next to it, right? Mount Shasta that has a ski hill on it. Like it is in the mountains, crazy canyony lake. There's pictures of it all over the internet. And it's always a winter tournament kind of starting, and people are saying like it's a little bit advanced because of this water coming up. So curious to see. So the BAM Pro Am starts there this weekend. So tournament starts there this weekend, 24th, 25th, 26th, and then One Bass hits it basically a week and a half later. So we're gonna have a lot of Shasta content and things to talk about after this all kicks off, and see some of those really really big weights that are being anticipated. I mean, stuff that I've been hearing and seeing has been like way bigger, kind of springy weights, like in the 20s and stuff.
Wow.
So excited to see some big bass.
That is one that has been on my bucket list for a while, being that I blame my buddy out there, Drew Gregory, or not. I've got Drew on the mind because he's got the dub, but Greg Blanchard, who's a kayak guy who is from my neck of the woods, who lives out in California, fishes Shasta, has
Yep.
posted tournament videos from there, and the way that's set up and the way he's caught him before, I'm sitting there, I'm like, that just looks like I'm drooling to try and go fish a place like that. And we talked a little bit about Shasta today with Cody, and obviously that place has got the spotted bass mantra, it seems like. So seems
Yeah.
like a cool place to go fish.
And he told me off air too. He's headed there for the One Bass there in a week and a half here. That's how he kind of gets his kick. He just loves Shasta, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
won there. He's done very, very well there. But that's his like kick to start the year. And like, all right, he goes one tournament this way, and then he goes all the rest that way.
Yeah.
Like this is how he rolls his season out. I love it.
Well, man, that's a nod to one of the guys you're gonna have to deal with this year, who's leaving a boat out west and also having a boat out in the Elite Series, and that's Mr. Bryant Smith, who we love. We love Bryant. We especially love that we can give him some hell, and he can definitely dish it too. But speaking of him, man, he's gonna be going back and forth more so on a plane than anything else.
Same
But
with Ish. Ish is doing the same deal, running one here and then fishing
oh,
the
that's
opens.
right, yeah, because the opens too. I would be curious to see if he's
And
fishing one
Ostrander,
edition or two.
Christian Ostrander as well.
Dang, so you're okay. So you're gonna have a crew. So he's
Oh, dude,
fishing. All
there's
three are fishing BAM.
I know, yes, yes. Certainly those three, and then Roy Hawk, but I don't think Roy Hawk. I don't know if he's traveling east at all. But those three are kind of the three that are doing some degree of like both, right?
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, so yeah, man, there's some hammers out west. It'll be a good time.
Yeah. So with that, quick before we wrap up the show today, is so with that crew, obviously there's some big names there with Bryant, Ish, Roy Hawk. What are some other names that people should look out for on the BAM tour if you know off the top of your head, like with the
Yeah,
list?
dude. Okay, two that fished it this last year that are no stranger to winning out west, but maybe aren't talked about enough. And that's Colby Pearson is a guy out of Oregon that
Mm-hmm.
is an absolute hammer. I mean, that dude is very, very good. He won a couple of them last year. I believe he won AOY, competed neck and neck against Ish right at the end there. And so he is really, really good. And then you also have my buddy Conrad Demix, dude. Conrad is an Arizona guy that he won on the Delta 2 years ago after spending like, never being there. Wins on the Delta. And then he goes to the Columbia River, which again, in BAM, there's no practice, right? So there is no practice. Had
Yeah.
never been on the Columbia River, had not set foot on the Columbia River, wins the event. And that dude is just a hammer. Like every time there's like a check, it's like, well, we're gonna lose one to Conrad. So same with
Oh my
Colby. So those are
God.
two names that I would really pay attention to.
You know how many check spots you're fishing for with who's
Right.
fishing.
Just start
Yeah.
taking them off the list. Like Bryant Smith, there's another one. Like that one's gone. Like you just keep going down the list.
You're like, dang, I'm only competing for 2 check spots.
Exactly. Like that's what it turns up happening.
It's gonna be fun to follow along, man, because it seems like a cool community of guys as well. It seems close knit.
Yes.
I can't wait to be the obnoxious Ducks fan from the East Coast that's living it up out west. But it's gonna be cool to tap into the new personalities, bring some of those to life, especially here on this segment going forth on Seriously Western, excuse me. But dude, I'm excited for what we're doing here. I believe in our goal, and this is only the first episode. So what I'll ask is one, for the folks that are tuning in, whether it's MP3 or YouTube, especially YouTube, comment down below. If you guys are tuning in, if you're from the West Coast, comment, represent down in the comments below. This is going to have information for everybody, not just the West Coast people. We're just bringing more of the West Coast to life. At least that's the goal of the show. But all ears to any ideas or call outs, feedback from if you're out from the West Coast and there's things that you think that we should be covering and talking about, some buzz that's happening. Slide in the DMs on social or send us an email at theseriousangler@gmail.com. That's down below as well in the show notes. But we'll love to get more people just interacting with the show and, bringing more life to the community out west.
Totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Can't wait, man, and have ideas spinning and excited for what is to come here. Super passionate about the West and being out here and getting a voice and talking about issues, talking about it all, right? So super excited.
Yeah. Well, folks, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and please leave us a rating and review if you're listening on MP3. Without further ado, we'll see you on the next one.